Blessed day, Earth family. Welcome back to the Martial Mystic series in 2026. I'm Javi. Glad to be with you. Thanks for joining. Today, we are talking about mental health. It is Mental Health Monday, and I'm really liking the way that this topic is going. Let me know what you think. Today's Today's phrase is zone awareness. So, within the context of Tai Chi and Qigong, we see that there are ancient technologies that can give us not just clues, but systems and daily practices to help us in our lives, essentially. As a practitioner and a lifelong student, I want to remind you also of Neisher Gong Fu, the Kung Fu of internal vision, which I take to mean as learning of oneself as deeply as possible, learning of what is the meaning of life, what is the meaning of my life, and what is the path from this moment to the next 3, 5, 10 years down the line. So stay tuned and see where the story goes. Now, mental health is a fairly new term. It's not a new field of study. It's been around, um, and it's gone through many names in the fields of psychology. And we'll talk a little bit about what the new terms are this in research and in study these days. Um, but let's go through what we're talking about today. So, as mentioned, we're talking about zone awareness. What does that mean in regards to mental health? We'll be looking at the second brain and the Dantian. We'll be looking at the calendar poetry and how that ties in, and the calendar exercise. And then finally, we'll finish off with metabolic psychiatry. So let's dive in. Mental health through the lens of the martial mystic and zone awareness. As we know, we conflict is inevitable. We move through our lives and we do not often know what the best course of action is. And it could be from one moment to the next. It could be a life choice, like what school to go to, what job to take, which life partner to marry, and then um, and then we have the interface and the interaction with all the other people and the things in the world. So, what we want to look at in terms of mental health are our zones of learning, our zones of comfort, and our zones of possibly panic. So, before we look at those zones, let's remind ourselves of the calendar poetry. Okay. So in February, we're looking at the poetry that says, "Do not be afraid of the initiation of a thought, but be afraid of the delaying of its perception. Be afraid of the awareness of the thought." Now, why might we want to be afraid of the delayed awareness of a thought? Well, if you've ever done something or said something that you regret, you realize that probably wasn't the best course of action to take, probably wasn't the best thing to say. In Resolution Thursday, we look more into communication when there's external conflict and how to address it. Here with Wednesday Wellness and in Mental Health Monday, we're looking more in terms of internal conflict. And so, as a contemplative practitioner, a meditator, we are we value thought, the importance of thought. We value awareness and the importance of awareness. Okay. So let's look at how, let's see, mental health practitioners address or speak about the learning zones and the comfort zones. So, and we have a couple of diagrams here. This one's not as complex as the other one. So here you can see in the middle the comfort zone, the learning zone. There's different ways of explaining this, and here the danger zone. Three fields, easy to look at, easy to memorize, and let's take a look at each of them. So this small circle is more of like our home, our center, where we feel content and where we, as humans, where we would mostly like to live in that comfort zone where we still feel safe and in control, right? We talk about in Qigong the creating of conditions, whether it be for mental health, whether it be for physical health, uh, diet, exercise. We create the conditions for health, wellness, well-being. Could be martial art training. You want to win a competition. You want to become the best. Well, you create the conditions for that. You practice daily, you set alarms, you stick to a schedule, you maintain discipline. You look at the road and the journey to self-conquering. And that's part of the nature Kung Fu. So the learning zone here now comes into uh, problem solving, growth, developing new skills, being and staying engaged. And then this outer zone, I like to also think of this in terms of range of motion, range of flexibility. We'll talk a little bit about the bottom up approach, but the somatic level and the body as this tool and vessel and antenna and feedback mechanism to let the mind know where we are. The body is a huge tool. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But here in the danger zone, you see what happens: poor decision-making ability, panic, fight or flight response, anxiety, poor performance, exhaustion, can be burnout too, working really hard trying to accomplish a goal, whether it's self-induced or it's externally induced by a boss or a project manager or something like that. Then when we you now you can see, like, if you happen to say something or do something in this danger zone, not aware, and then you're like, gosh, oh, I regret saying that or doing that. Now you have that delayed awareness of the thought. Well, I was in a danger zone. I was panicking. I was in fight or flight response. I was having an anxiety attack. I was afraid of not performing well, so I overshot the mark. I was exhausted. There's a lot of examples. Let's go to this other diagram here, looking at the comfort zone. So, using this same image in terms of circles and growing zones of moving out of comfort, we have the fear, the learning, and the growth zone. So in many models similar to these, you see the growth zone. Typically, these are laid out as comfort, growth, and panic, like that last one. But let's take a look at this one. So in this one here, the comfort zone, you see you're safe and in control. Now, this is really interesting because outside of the comfort zone is the fear zone, the next one. It's really interesting, I find, and it kind of jives a little bit with me. We'll explain here in a second. But this fear zone where you have lack of confidence, you're finding excuses, right? Like, you need to go for a walk, a jog, a run. You need to do some meditation. You need to do eat well, you know you need to go to sleep, but you're just finding excuses. We all have that uh, second uh, second thought, right? Where it's like, oh, I could probably get away for this for today, and then finally you create that habit where you're finding excuses. And let's see, this says be affected by others' opinions. You can be affected by others' opinions. I kind of see this fear zone a little bit too as the warm-up zone because there's a process of warming up where you're going from that tightness, stickiness, a little bit of malaise, fatigue, and eventually we want to hit that flow state where we're not even thinking, we're just moving, acting, responding, no issue, no problem, regulating of no regulating. So oftentimes we talk about the regulating process, and the goal of regulating is doing of no doing, regulating without regulating. Until then, you have to go and put yourself and do it and put yourself through the self-discipline. All right, so we're looking at learning zone, dealing with challenges and problems, acquiring new skills, extending the comfort zone. Really interesting here. I love this terminology. Extending the comfort zone out here. This is really interesting when we look at range of motion, range of flexibility. And here, when we find the growth zone, interestingly, we find purpose. We live out our dreams. We even set new goals and we conquer objectives in the growth zone. And this continues on. If you look online, you find many other models of this. But how does this tie into? We're gonna talk about this in Tai Chi Tuesday tomorrow. The We're talking about mental health, and it's kind of all in the brain and in the cognition, the upper energy center. But we have also the lower energy center. We have three main centers that we are interested in when it comes to Qigong. We have the upper energy center, the lower energy center, and the middle energy center. But here's the lower energy center, the real lower Dantian, and it's often described as the second brain. And so, interestingly, when we're exercising, when we're moving, should you just go for a walk, right? The lower body's movement starts to facilitate, right? Abdominal pumping, chest pumping, the lungs, that moves the blood, moves the lymph through the body. So you get what we call that bottom up approach in terms of where you start your regulation. So the second brain is also connected to gut health. In the gut, we have a number of, what does it say, 500 to 1,000 species of of microbes. Often this is called the microbiome. And so where we're looking at the species of microbes and what they feed on. Why is this important? So from the bottom up approach for mental health, where what is said is that mechanistically, uh, oh, here it is. Um, the neurotransmitter production is found here in the gut. The vagus nerve highway found in the gut, and the inflammation control also found in the gut. Okay. The neurotransmitter production, gut bacteria produces a massive portion of the body's feel-good chemicals. 95% of the body's serotonin, roughly 50% of the dopamine are produced in the gut, not the brain. The vagus nerve is a direct physical link between the gut and the brain. Microbes can send signals through this nerve to influence mood, stress response, and even decision making. Finally, inflammation control. An imbalanced gut dysbiosis can cause systemic inflammation. Research suggests that chronic low-grade inflammation is a primary driver of depression and anxiety. Looking at those epidemics and reasons as to why we're experiencing that and the second health. In Qigong, we also talk about the central channel, the Chong Mai. I'm not sure if I have a image of the Chong Mai, but now we start to get a lens of the Qigong um, approach. Let me see. I don't I don't have a lens, but let's look at the let me see. I'm gonna take a second to pull up this other image, or maybe I won't. But no, not this one. What I wanted to say was that the Chong Mai is the energies representation, the energy vessel, one of the most important energy vessels. I'll get an image for you on this one that connects the lower energy center to the upper energy center. So the yin yang gives us the opportunity to have this lens. The lower energy center and upper energy center are connected in this way by the Fibonacci spiral, right? In the body, there's one single vessel, an energetic vessel, which is a storehouse, a preservation mechanism for the body's energy. And that's connected to the lower energy center and the upper energy center. Going back to mental health, wellness, and our zones, we need to know what zone we are in, right? Because if we're in learning or comfort or panic zone, we want to have that awareness of the thought before we, like I said, do something or say something that we're gonna regret. And that's what that poetry is talking about. If we're in our comfort zone, and here's the issue, right? We want to build this mental resilience. This information is for people who want to build mental and even physical resilience in order to tackle the challenges of life, knowing that life is going to throw challenges at you. So, how do we best prepare ourselves to handle the challenges in life? That's whether we're dealing with internal conflict or external conflict. Having the awareness of what zone you're in, you can let yourself know, and you can even let others know. This is a little bit out of my zone. This may take me into this may take me out of my comfort zone. This may take me into more of a learning zone. Can you please be patient? Can you have patience with me? Can I get some flexibility from you? So this is a good way for someone who has like social anxiety. We'll talk more about this in Resolution Thursday to communicate where you're at and what you're dealing with. So the last thing I'll say is that the interestingly, that this has produced a new field of science called metabolic psychiatry. Let's see, I think I have a yeah, metabolic psychiatry, a new lens on mental health, showing that disturbances in metabolism can directly affect brain function, mood, and resilience. As research accelerates and clinical interest grows. Metabolic approaches offer a promising new pathway for improving mental health outcomes. And this allows the mind to be more flexible and adapt to stressors internally or externally. And this is the tools that we need in this changing world where we find that we think things are going to be on a steady progression forward and things suddenly shift or change from uh what did I write down? Oh yeah, so in martial arts, competition, winning and losing, daily emotional stressors, internal or external, even societal breakdown. What are the tools that we need to employ, employ? Yeah, to build our capacity for resilience. Lastly, we'll look at some Tai Chi uh, movements. Here is today's Tai Chi movement. Ji, simple, broken down, easy to follow movement. Right hand, left hand, yin yang balance there. Yin yang balance is always in Tai Chi movement. You're just seeing the arms, but we also have spine bow, chest bow, leg bow, because we want a full body integrated, coherent movement. That's why we move slowly. And then we slowly speed up movement, or we add weight to movement. So when we talk about wellness and we talk about resolution as well, we want to look at
It
how
makes
weight
the staff.
uh, provides resistance and stress to improve resilience. We talk about the bottom up approach, right? So if we want to have the capacity to deal with mental stressors, emotional stressors, internal or external, that is a symbol for pressure and stress that that challenges our comfort zone, pulls us into a learning or panic zone. So what do? We teach the body, we teach the nervous system to handle pressure and weight in the physical realm, in the earth realm. And then bottom up approach, regulation, regulating of no regulating, strengthen the body to strengthen the mind. So now I've taken off the weight, moving slowly. I have throughout the process maintained awareness of what zone I'm in. If I'm in a learning, growth, or panic zone, before I get to a panic zone, I stop the movement and I move on. I put that staff down. Now it's just weight vest and wrist weights. Again, having awareness of the internal capacity and systems that I'm challenging in the body. And of course, we talk about five regulations. This is five regulations in practice: body regulation, breath regulation, for energetic regulation, and spiritual regulation. Finally, through building awareness of my zones, all the weight is off. If you've never felt this before, feeling lightness, feeling the pressure off, moving through your zones through a session, this is a wonderful state to be in. Last week we talked about light body, light mind. I should have pulled this up. Bottom up approach to mental health, mental resilience through physical health and physical resilience. Now you're seeing the stretching. So we had warm up, cool down. We had re, pressure testing. We had strengthening, endurance training through this Kung Fu and Qigong lens. So that's going to be it for today, um, for Monday's mental health installment, zone awareness. What are your thoughts? How do you stay in zone awareness? Tomorrow we'll be talking about in Tai Chi Tuesday what I just showed you, and we'll be talking about the physical process of getting out of one's comfort zone, learning zone, and comfort, growth, and learning zone, staying out of panic, but understanding where panic is so that we know where it is, and then we also improve and build upon our comfort zone because we want to, like that diagram showed, expand the capacity for comfort. That, my friends, is the foundation of that mental resilience. Hope that speaks to you. Let me know your thoughts. Comment below. Send me a direct message. That's it for today. Super excited to be sharing this with you. The Martial Mystic Series 2026. Embrace the woo and may your chi flow smoothly.